Paris, France. July 2013. Scientists announced the discovery of an entirely new class of extremely large microbes called Pandora viruses. Up to 94% of the Pandora virus genome has nothing in common with any other life form on Earth.
These very large viruses, the Pandora viruses, they have a very high frequency of genes that basically don't correspond to any other genes in other organisms that we know of.
While seemingly alien, Pandora viruses do share one thing in common with all life on Earth: DNA. Those who endorse panspermia say that this supports a key part of their hypothesis, namely, that all life in the universe is based on DNA, and therefore that life on Earth is closely related to life everywhere.
If DNA is present throughout space, and we are a product of that DNA, and that other species elsewhere in the galaxy are also the result of the same DNA, then very clearly there's some kind of symbiotic relationship between all of us.
If all life in the universe is based on DNA, then aliens would be closely related to humans. Is this why so many abductees report that their alien abductors are so interested in human genetic material?
Many abductees have talked about how they were taken on board UFOs and subjected to medical experimentation. Witnesses talk about blood, sperm, eggs being removed from their bodies.
It's very possible that an alien intelligence is tinkering with our DNA to try to make us more compatible to them, and that perhaps one day the two species will unite, and they will no longer be our gods, but we will be their equals.
If aliens are using these microbes to make us more like them, then obviously we're going to start to show signs of that sort of genetic, physical evolution. In other words, our testosterone levels should go down. We're going to become more frail, probably going to become more androgynous. Our intelligence is going to be spiked.
Some point out that these changes are happening already.
There are trends in the evolution of human beings right now. Sperm counts are going down. Sperm counts are going down, by the way, as the world's population is crashing through 8 billion to 10 billion.
Maybe we'll become more like the aliens, and perhaps that means that we're actually more compatible with them genetically if that path is the one that's laid out. So you could actually look at the development of higher intelligence as, again, kind of a genetic Trojan horse that eventually leads us to a point where it's far easier for us to be crossed genetically with alien species.
Paracas skull, number 44. Discovered in 2012, it has a weight of 2.8 pounds, 25% heavier than the average adult male skull. It has a cranial capacity of 1,500 cubic centimeters, 20% greater than normal. And it is missing a sagittal suture, the connective tissue joint found between the parietal bones in all human skulls. This is just one of hundreds of strange, misshapen skulls that have been found on the southern coast of Peru, dating back to 1927. It was at this time that archaeologist Julio Teo first excavated a massive burial complex, thought to have been built by the Paracas people who lived in the region from 800 BC to 100 BC.
Julio C. Teo was the father of Peruvian archaeology. And in the 1920s, he discovered mummy bundles, and in each mummy bundle was a person with an elongated skull. They were buried in family mausoleums, in some cases as deep as 30 feet into the bedrock.
Mainstream archaeologists say The elongation is most likely the result of head binding, which involves wrapping the heads of infants while their skulls are still soft in order to change the shape. It is a practice found in numerous cultures throughout the world that dates back thousands of years. But why would people desire to elongate the heads of their children? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that head binding originated with primitive humans who were attempting to imitate the appearance of extraterrestrial visitors. But according to researcher Brian Forster, the assistant director of the Paracas History Museum, head binding would not account for the other anomalies that the Paracas skulls exhibit.
About 5% of the elongated skulls that we find in Paracas are so complex in shape and size that it's hard to believe that they're the result of any form of cranial deformation or head binding. Not only are they elongated vertically, but also the eye sockets are much larger than normal. There are 2 holes in the back of the skull called foramen, through which blood and nerve flow occurred, and also their jaws were very robust.
Among the largest of them, we find skulls 60% heavier than normal human skulls and a brain capacity that is 2.5 times larger than the normal human brain.
But if these elongated skulls were not the result of the ancient practice of head binding, then just who or what were these mysterious beings? In 2014, DNA testing was performed on Paracas skull number 44, which rendered surprising results.
Some initial DNA testing has been done, and the results, according to the geneticist, are quite startling. There were certain segments of the DNA that didn't match anything known to be human. What it suggests to me is that Paracas could very well have been an ancient bloodline related to Homo sapiens, but not specifically Homo sapiens itself.
When you look at this kind of archaeological evidence, you're seeing concrete, tangible, DNA testable proof that extraterrestrials walked on Earth right among us.
Personally, I think it is quite possible that what we have there are remnants of the so-called teachers that visited mankind in the remote past.
Zurich, Switzerland, December 2019. Scientists announce an incredible technological breakthrough, one that takes the unassuming form of a small plastic bunny. This seemingly mundane object hides an incredible secret. Just like a living creature, the bunny has its own DNA. But how? By binding negatively charged molecules of biological DNA with positively charged particles of protective silica, Ehrlich and Grass were able to create the world's first synthetic DNA. In the case of the bunny, the scientists encoded the digital files used to create the 3D printed object into the plastic. With even just a tiny snippet, they can decode the information inside and print a new copy of the bunny, which will carry the same synthetic DNA. What makes this breakthrough particularly significant is the fact that it has the ability to store massive amounts of data.
Digital computers that you have in your cell phone and everywhere in our world today deals with digital information, zeros and ones, zeros and ones. And that's how it makes calculations. Now, Mother Nature is more sophisticated. On a DNA molecule, Mother Nature computes in base 4, A, T, C, G, rather than 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. And we can actually compute by hijacking this base 4 mechanism that Mother Nature has created and putting our programming on ATCG, ATCG.
Experts say that once this technique is scaled up, massive amounts of data can be stored in any object, retrieved, and replicated, presumably forever.
These are great alternatives of storing data because they don't need any energy for storage. They can just sit on a shelf and not degrade.
Once you actually encode data into DNA, it's very cheap to replicate. So you can put petabytes of data into a droplet of DNA and then make 1 billion copies of it very inexpensively. And if you have a redundancy strategy, lots of copies is a good thing. DNA is also very compact. The amount of space it takes to store the Wikipedia is just a few drops of liquid. And those could actually just be embedded into fabric or paper and take up almost no space.
Although DNA data storage is still in its infancy, ancient astronaut theorists believe it presents an intriguing possibility. Is it possible that many out-of-place artifacts discovered around the world have much more to offer than what meets the eye? Might they contain information within them about whatever civilization left them behind?
There are lots of natural materials that conduct and can contain information today. Crystals, various types of stones, even living organisms. So is it possible that extraterrestrials have embedded ancient sacred knowledge, some type of material that if we were able to extract this information, there could be a wealth of information ready, waiting at our fingertips?
March 2018. A scientific paper sparks a sensation in the press. In it, a team of 33 scientists, including Dr. Chandra Wickramasinghe, claim that octopuses possess extraterrestrial DNA.
What we find in the octopus genome is just almost uncanny. It has something like 50,000 genes. Compare that with the human, which has something like 25,000 genes. So the octopus, in many ways, appears to be more complex than the human. And how did this complexity manifest itself? There's ample evidence to suggest that it came from outside.
As scientists study octopi, they're amazed at what they're finding, and they're not seeing a connection to some ancestor of the octopi. It's like these creatures were brought here in their entirety and put into our oceans.
The octopus is a really fascinating organism. The octopus's brain, instead of just being centered in its head like ours, is actually distributed. There are these brains in their arms as well as the central brain in their head. Octopuses are very adept at camouflaging themselves by changing their color to that of their surroundings really, really quickly. I mean, almost it looks instantaneous to us.
Some scientists have speculated that in the absence of humans, the animal best suited to evolve into the dominant species on the planet is not another primate, but the octopus. And there is one ability in particular that suggests the octopus could one day rule the Earth. It can edit its own genetic code.
DNA, the double helix, is like a zipper. The zipper can be unzipped. And then another molecule is created called RNA. RNA transfers the information from DNA to proteins. So the octopus have the amazing ability to edit their RNA. Thus, they can make new proteins.
Although this ability isn't fully understood, it suggests that the octopus can rapidly adapt to its environment far faster than other creatures.
What RNA editing does is essentially mediated by changes in the environment, usually temperature, for example.
Camouflaging skin, tool use, the ability to edit its own genetic code. Is it possible that this extraordinary creature, with 3 hearts and 9 brains, is not from Earth? Perhaps evidence can be found by examining mythological accounts from across the ancient world.
We have to ask ourselves, is it possible that the ancients were aware that the octopus is truly alien to this planet?
Is it possible that the octopus is related to a race of extraterrestrials that visited Earth thousands of years ago? Or did our ancestors encounter intelligent creatures that were the result of alien experimentation?